In this video I'm going to be teaching you 20 different tips and tricks that you can use today to instantly make you better at the game. Right, so in this tip, what you need to do in every round is, well, not every round, but a round that you want to peek a window, what you would want to do is, let's say you want to peek the pool, instead of just punching it like this, what you'd want to do, because when you punch it, it breaks the glass, and then the attackers might be able to hear it on the drone phase, and they'll be prepared and they'll be ready and they'll know where you're peeking from. So what you want to do, that glass is broke now, so what you want to do is, let's say you want to peek from this side of the window. If you like, this is head height here, what you want to do is shoot like that, and then the glass is still there and you can peek, and they won't be able to hear you shoot the barricade from inside. They won't know where you're peeking from, so unless they've seen you on a drone, they won't know that you're peeking. So if you just do that, you can go both sides, you can just peek, and they won't hear you because obviously the glass is not broken. So that is tip number one. So tip number two is learn how to quick peek. Now learning how to quick peek is very hard if you've never done it before, and there are multiple different ways to quick peek, and there are a lot of videos out there that teach you how to quick peek. I think there's like 3 or 4 different variations of the quick peek. Some of them are a bit outdated now and aren't as efficient as what they used to be because the mechanics have changed a bit in the game. But I will show you how I quick peek in the game and what gets me the most amount of kills. So this is how I quick peek in game. So what you want to do, this is literally how I quick peek every angle. So you're leaning, you press Q, then you press A to lean into it, and then you press DE and then back to Q again, and then you should get something like this. It's quite confusing how I'm explaining it, and there's loads of videos out there you can watch to learn how to master it. And this is the one I prefer to do. I find it the simplest. Some might find it quite confusing, but for me, this is how I prefer to do it. So that is tip number 2. Tip number 3 is crosshair placement. Now this tip is very useful because you need good crosshair placement to get a lot of kills, and this will improve your KD a lot if you follow this rule. So if you look at the barricade, you've got the first buckle and the second buckle. If you go with the top buckle, that is head height, and that will kill. That is the height of everyone's head, and it will get you so many more kills. Let me try and show you an example if I can find a terrorist on the map. So there's not one here, but the head height is around here, and you just need to keep that same level when you're peeking angles. You need to keep that same level. See, it's head height all the way around the map. This gets you so many more kills. Here's the second buckle. This is a good example if there's anyone there. It's not. It's just not. See that? That second buckle, same height. It's the same. You can practice this in T-Hunt to get good at it. This is something that takes a lot of time to get used to. But eventually you'll get the hang of it. The more you do it, the better you'll get at it. So yeah, that is tip number 3. Tip number 4 is find your perfect sense. Now this tip is important because when you're in gunfights, when you're swinging people, we need to be accurate with your mouse, and if your sense is too high, you're going to overswing. If your sense is too low, you're not going to swing far enough to get the kill. So a good way to find your perfect sense is if you go into the shooting grounds, and you just need to flick onto people's heads. A good way to test is if you've got a target here and a target there. You might be able to do this in like a custom game, and you need to try and swing as close as you can to the two targets. And if your sense is too slow, you're going to stop here, and if the sense is too high, you're going to overswing. So you need to try and find the perfect sense where you can move between two distances consistently and accurately. So you want to just play around with your sense and see what works for you. But I'll show you my sense. So in what I have is 92, 92, and sometimes I change it, sometimes I put it down, sometimes I put it up. But you might think this is very high, but I've gone into my documents and I've changed the multiplier. So I think mine's 0.002. So to put my multipliers down so it's more accurate. My mouse sensitivity is more accurate, which helps with my accuracy. So another thing to take into consideration is the mouse ADS sensitivity. Again, this is something that you can change and like tweak with, but this is something that you need to pay attention to as well. There's a lot of videos on this, on ones that are recommended, but I would recommend you find your own, because you can watch like Bolo's video on like his sensitivity, his ADS sensitivity, but if you just copy his, I mean, it works for him, but is it going to work for you? Probably not. It might do, but it probably won't. So you need to tweak around with your own ADS sensitivity to work for you, which is what I would recommend. That is tip number 4. Tip number 5 is the Azami floor trick. Now this can be very useful for when you're in a room and there's nothing to throw and a keyboard barrier on. You're just in an open space and you want to put something to protect you. So you want to do is break the floor, and you want to throw a keyboard against the floor that you've just broke, like this hit line here. Like the first floorboard, you want to throw that onto, and you can throw another keyboard on top, whatever you want to do with it, and you get full cover. You can sit behind here with absolute cover, which is quite a good trick actually. It's quite useful. I haven't known this for too long, but it is a good trick to know. So that's tip number 5. Tip number 6 is droning. So this tip is something that everyone should be doing anyway, but I see a lot of people not doing it, and you need to get into the habit of droning every round, always droning things out, giving your team communication on where people might be or what's clear. And the correct way to drone is if you want to capitalize on droning the best way, you need to have someone drone you into a room, or someone drone you into the room, or they drone you in. Now this will help you capitalize on maybe an empty room, or give you a greater chance of killing the person that may be there. Now this is the best way to work as a team in getting more knowledge of that round and just helping you win in general. So this is definitely a tip that you need to get into the habit of doing, and that is tip number 6. Tip number 7 is always use the 1.5 scope. Now, a lot of people know this might be a no-brainer to some people, but the 1.5 scope is the best scope in the game, and you should use it on every gun that you have the 1.5 scope on. So if the majority of the defense guns have the 1x, but the majority of the attacks have 1.5. Never use a one-time scope on an attack gun unless it's like the R4C on Ash, or you know, a gun that doesn't have the 1.5 or a 2x, because you need to create the best possible chance for you to win gunfights and win games. You need to focus on your rank before favouring a site that, I don't know, you've seen like a streamer used is completely ridiculous, and you think, oh yeah, I might do that, but then it ends up just getting you killed more than not, because these players are better than the majority. They're better than me, they're probably better than you. So yeah, always use the best possible choice that you have. Never go for something less like the one-time scope, because it should be the last resort. So that is tip number 7. Tip number 8, avoid sprinting. Now this tip is the most frustrating tip out of all 25. This tip annoys me so much, and honestly I actually get quite a lot of kills from this. People aimlessly running around site or running around the map, not knowing where people are, and it's full sprinting around the map. It's so loud, and if people obviously have good knowledge of the game and like, or a decent headset, they'll hear you from a mile away. So try and avoid this as best as you can. Like if you're in a gunfight, don't turn your back and run away, because there could be an enemy around the next corner you run round. So the best way to deal with this is to just ask a teammate for help, or make a rotation, or if you're in solo queue, you're better off just trying to kill the person, because like running full sprint is very risky. Sometimes it works off, but I'd highly recommend to avoid sprinting in the map as much as possible. That is tip number 8. Tip number 9 is control your emotions. Now this tip, I could use this as well, because it is so easy to get caught up in your emotions when you're having a bad game and you start getting mad. It's so easy to just start getting mad and frustrated, and then you start playing bad, and it's just a downward spiral from there. So you may find that your best plays that you've had in the game, like when you got like a 3k or an ace, or you are at your calmest, this is when you play your best siege, is when you are calm and relaxed. And if you find yourself like in a situation you're pressuring yourself to maybe win the round, this is going to make you play even worse, because pressuring yourself to win a round is mentally, you're going to find it hard to win the round if you start pressuring yourself. And like when you pressure yourself, it can lead to you rushing the process, and then therefore you're just getting in your own head and not taking your time with the if you've got a clutch scenario, you need to take your time. Don't rush yourself and don't be stressed. So that is tip number 9. Tip number 10 is watch match replays. Now this is a good tip, because I find that watching match replays can help you reflect on when you've played bad and when you've played good. You can see if there are like trends in when you die, if you're in like bad positioning, or it's your aim, or a certain operator. It could be a map, it could be, you need to identify these key components to you dying, and this will help you in the future try and avoid making these mistakes, therefore getting you less deaths, and on the flip side, getting a lot of kills, whether it be using it, like to say, using a specific operator, playing aggressive or playing passive. This is a good way to reflect on good performances and bad performances. Always watch match replays if you're interested in progressively getting better in the game, because this will only make you better and better. So that is tip number 10. So tip number 11 is the ash breach trick. So what you want to do is you get the ash breaching rounds, and if you shoot the ash breach charge into the top corner and you run into the breach charge, you run into the barricade, you won't take any damage. As you can see, I've got 100 out of 100 health, and it's a good way of rushing into sight, or creating a rush for your team. If you just shoot straight into the top corner and run straight into the map, this will help you get maybe catch enemies off guard. It is a good trick to know in case you want to just rush around and help your team get into the map quicker. So that is tip number 11. So tip number 12 is map control. Now what I mean by this is, when you're on defense, you need to take as much of the map as possible to make it as hard as possible for the attackers to get into the map. So if you want to roam, what you want to do is go as far away as you can from the site. So like on the other side of the map, up or down, it's your choice, but you need to hold like a few rooms where it's common for the attackers to enter. And obviously it's like the first 45 seconds you need to set up site, help your team set up site, and then the next minute you need to hold down a certain part of the map for like a minute window, and as soon as you've wasted enough time, or you've got 1 or 2 kills, maybe, hopefully you have, move your way slowly, give up some of the map, and you spend the next minute after that little minute window moving your way back to site, to then try and help your team win the round. And for the last portion of the round, you need to be in sight or in and around site, helping your team secure the win for that round. This way this is the best way to utilize the defense, and this is more directed at the higher ranks, because in the lower ranks you don't really get attackers like having like how can I put it, like the attackers don't usually spread out around the map and try and attack from all different angles. Usually in the lower ranks they usually stick together and try and have one direct attack, so it's easier for the defenders. So yeah, this is more for the higher ranks, but the whole point of it is to try and waste the attacker's time, or hopefully you get some kills. This is a very good way to roam the map. So yeah, that is tip number 12. Tip number 13 is clutch tips. So my best tip for clutching around against a 1vx, what you'd like to do is try and create as many 1v1s as possible to help you win the round. This is the best way for you to clutch around. What you don't want to do is try and take on more than one at once, or enter a room and you've got multiple angles to try and check, and if you know that there's two, like one's sat behind a desk and one's on the other side of the door, there's two angles that you've got to hold, and there's they could peak at any unexpected time. So what you want to do is to create the highest possible chance of you winning a round, you must create the 1v1s in the clutch situations. That is tip number 13. So tip number 14 is use traps correctly. So I don't see this as much in higher ranks because people are usually quite are aware of where to put the correct traps or where to hide traps, so it gives you enough time to react or enough time enough time to react. So basically what you don't want to do is you don't want to throw one here or you don't want to throw one there, because usually this is the two common bomb sites. So if you put one here, it's not really useful, because if someone walks up to the door, there might be someone like walking around, or there might be someone sitting on cameras here, or someone could be here trying to wait for them to. So this will be more annoying for your teammates than it would for the enemy. So what you want to do is maybe put one like here, or you could put one, if you need a bit of time, you can always put one there. Not necessarily like that exact spot, because it could be shot from here. If you like try and hide it down there, maybe, so you can't shoot it from there, and you won't be able to shoot it from there. So by the time you see it, it might already gone off, but hopefully they wouldn't know it's there. So the whole point of that was to try and spread them out as much as possible. Like this one's a good spot to have there, so it gives you enough time to react. So if someone's watching big window, they'll hear it go off and they'll know they can make the call out for your team that someone's white stairs. But yeah, that's about it. Just try and use them as effectively as possible. So it gives your team information, and also it will give yourself information as well. Even if you're solo queuing, at least you'll know that there's someone coming from that area. Tip number 15 is avoid solo queuing. Now this tip, especially if you're trying to push up in ranks and try and achieve a certain rank that you have in mind, avoid solo queuing as much as possible, because this will only damage your MMR and you'll damage your rank, unless you could get lucky and win so many matches in a row. But for yourself and for like learning the game, learning like different call outs, because when you work with, I know I have, when I've got into a 5-stack, you learn different call outs, because let's be honest, not everyone knows every call out in the map, and playing with like 4 other people, you'll learn call outs, you'll learn how to communicate well with the team, and you'll learn how to set up sites differently and use different strats, and this will help you as a teammate, and it will help your rank so much. So there are a lot of different ways to try and find people to play with, but the one I use the majority of the time, if I need people to play with, I use the R6 Discord, and this is full of, there's thousands of people on the R6 Discord for you to play with. There's people always looking for people to play with. So if you ever need people to play with, use the R6 Discord, and this will help you find people to play with anywhere in the world. They do every region, and I think they do PC console as well, but I'm on PC, so I know they 100% do PC. But yeah, just avoid solo queuing at all costs. That is tip number 15. Tip number 16 is don't be toxic. Now this, I wish it wasn't in the list, but this really does need to be said, that people need to know that being toxic is not what people want to hear, and it's not what should be said. If you've got nothing good to say, just don't say it, because honestly, the way I look at it is you're a team and you're working together to play the game and try and win the match. So insulting your teammates is not the way to go, because it's only going to make them play worse, and you might even get reported, and then you might eventually get banned for it. So if you're in a stack and someone's like being toxic towards you, just don't respond to them, because it will only disrupt the team's chemistry and the morale of the team. Then people just don't want it. People won't want to play with you if you're just toxic. So try and refrain from being toxic at all costs, because at the end of the day, being toxic towards someone is not going to make them play any better than what they are. If they're playing bad already, saying horrible things to someone is not going to make them play any better. You just, at the end of the day, you just want to be in a good mindset. You have good team communication, and you'll have a good chance of winning the game. People always have bad games. You've got to be willing to just take it with a pinch of salt. If someone's playing bad, it's just part and parcel of the game. This is always going to be in the game. Everyone's going to have a bad game. You just can't be toxic towards people. If someone makes one mistake, don't let it ruin the fucking game, because at the end of the day, it is a game, and you need to try and keep a level head in this game, because you'll eventually end up hating the game if you're toxic every day, and then you'll stop playing the game. So that is tip number 16. Don't be toxic. Tip number 17 is shoot the soft wall before you reinforce it. Now this tip can be quite useful for when you want a bandit trick, because you will be able to hear, let's say like they've got a thermite or an ace. If there's loads of holes in the wall, let's say you put a hole in the wall here, and then you reinforce it this side. So initially you'll have obviously the first layer, which is this wall, and then this is the second layer. If you don't make a like some holes along here or wherever, you won't be able to hear is clearly when they've thrown an ace charge or they're placing their thermite on the wall. So if you make some holes all the way along with a shotgun, or if your teammate's got a shotgun, it's more efficient to do it that way. Just shoot loads of holes in the wall, and then when you're trying to bandit trick, you'll be able to hear them placing whatever they have on their team. And also, I found I've done this as well when I've used ace. I've accidentally like thrown it like on this soft wall here, and it places the ace on the soft wall, and it like just messes up the the breach that you want to get. It won't do it because you've placed it incorrectly. So that's probably another good tip for this, is these holes that you make along here can actually mess the attackers up, because they can place it wrong. So that is tip number 17. Tip number 18 is floorboards. So on a lot of the maps in the game, there's some maps that have different floorboards, but on this particular map, on Oregon, we have the floorboards, they're all going in the same direction. So with these floorboards, you have they're all going this way. So what you want to do is when you shoot the floorboard, the metal beams underneath, they're always going to be going in the opposite direction. So what you want to do is, when you're like doing vertical play in ranked, if you see which way the floorboards are going and then shoot the opposite way, you see the metal beams are going this way, the floorboards are going that way. So it just makes it so much easier to get the kill once you understand this tip. Like when like this, they're all going to be going the same way in the whole map. But yeah, you just want to be the opposite direction, and it's so much easier to get the kill. This might be obvious to some people, but a lot of people actually don't know this tip. So yeah, that is tip number 18. Tip number 19 is the castle barricade. So when you're using castle and you barricade, you normal barricade in a window, it breaks the barricade, but it doesn't break the glass. So what you want to do when you're using castle, before you barricade, you want to break the glass, and then you want to barricade, because this allows you to hear people rappelling on the other side of the window. So to just do it quickly, do that, and then just barricade that, and then it breaks the glass, and then, or you can put it on, like it, and then do it again. But you always want to do this because it allows you to hear more if someone's rappelling on the other side of the window, or they're just like walking around. Yeah, you definitely want to do that. So that is tip number 19. Tip number 20 is turn on night mode. This is something that you definitely want to do. So what you want to do is go into the settings in Rainbow and go to audio, and then go to dynamic range and turn it to night mode, because this will allow you to it will balance out the audio from like explosions and shooting. Then it balance it down to the same level as like people running around and different sort of sound cues. This will help you to recognise where people are coming, approaching from, and this will give you a better reaction time to different sounds that you hear. Because if you have it on like just hi-fi or TV, the explosions and the shooting might drown out all the other sound cues in the game, which is going to be pretty shit for if you're trying to play competitively. So what you want to do is definitely use night mode to just give you that slight edge in being aware where people are. So that is tip number 20.